Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Last week's battle for the lead at Oulton Park ended up with Jukka Tolonen damaging his front rear against Juanmi Costa's rear, the latter going on to take his 6th win of the season on the way to a mathematically clinched F1 title. With that job done, Costa elects to sit the rest of the season out and let other drivers taste victory. Let's see who will climb to the top step of the podium as we get ready to watch the penultimate round of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series, and you'll get to see all of the action live right here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hello everybody, I'm Thomas Mengozi, and joining me in the booth today is IMSA driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by the one and only Dougie Beard. The Lotus 79 field continues its game of continental hopscotch this week, with the drivers taking on the fearsome Suzuka circuit in their second visit to Japan. Let's head over to our GSRC track guide to learn more about one of the cornerstone venues in Japanese motorsports.
Welcome to Suzuka Circuit, perhaps most famous for its hosting of the Formula One Japanese Grand Prix for much of the event's history. This track sees all sorts of racing besides that. In fact, this place began as a test track for Honda, but later proved to be a driver and fan favorite for competitive motorsports as well. The full layout of the Grand Prix course steals the show, but there's actually 5 different versions that can be run on iRacing. With their lap lengths ranging from just over 2 kilometers to nearly 6 kilometers, plenty of different types of cars can suit the track. GT racing and lower-level open-wheelers are quite popular, but motorcycles are also a staple here. Some of the corners have become world-renowned over the years. The S's are often cited as one of the great tests of a driver's technical prowess. Then, of course, there's Degner's 1 and 2, which provide very little runoff considering their fast and narrow entry. Later on, the long backstretch leads up to the notorious 130R, which is blindingly fast. The Casio Triangle offers one last chance at an overtake if you're brave, but has been the scene of many drivers clattering into one another over the years. F1 fans will be quick to cite the infamous coming together here between Senna and Prost. However, real-life visitors will find it's more than the racing that provides some viewing pleasures. The unique ways in which the Japanese fans celebrate their favorite cars and drivers certainly capture your attention. But it's no wonder they're such fanatics, because who wouldn't be with one of the world's greatest tracks right in your backyard?
Well, Joey, I don't know about you, but even though the Lotus 79s may never have raced there in real life, it feels like Suzuka was made for the Lotus. It feels so satisfying to chuck this thing around and string a perfect lap together.
It's meant for those cars with a lot of downforce, and that's exactly what these Lotus 79 machines have. Take a look at the track map of Suzuka. 17 turns, just a tick over 3.6 miles, 5.8 Ks for everybody else. And really technical racetrack that everybody is going to have to deal with today. You're going to see a lot of single file racing. Only a couple real big passing opportunities, really kicking it off immediately into that turn one. But you got to be careful because it actually tightens up quite a bit into turn number two. And I think one of the cool things about Suzuka here is you have all the different types of corners, from the slower corners to these S sections, even the figure eight where it crosses over itself, over and under the bridge there before the hairpin. And then also some of the most iconic corners in motorsports. Spoon curve, another decreasing radius turn that actually falls away from you with the elevation. And then also 130R, one of the fastest corners in all of motorsports, which leads into the Casio Triangle, the final chicane, as we also like to call it. Probably your next best passing opportunity here at Suzuka.
That alongside the hairpin as well, another one of the big braking zones here around this wonderful circuit situated in the Mie Prefecture in Japan. Let's take a look at the Formula 1 standings with the last 2 rounds to go. Heading into the penultimate round of the season, Juanmi Costa clearly atop of the standings, 654 points going the way of the Spaniard. He has elected to sit out the last 2 rounds of the season, this one and the round at Long Beach next week, but he's effectively done mathematically enough to clinch his second successive Formula 1 title. Timothy Reed seems to not be participating in this weekend, and he will be sitting in second position entering today with 145 points of a deficit to Juanmi Costa. Gernot Tritsch just behind him in P3, 20 points adrift. Then Juho Rainer in P4, 179 points adrift, and then Dylan Freckleton moving into P5 with 196 points. Jack David Spickett in P6, Jason Clapper 7th, Nathan Finnegan in P8, Kimmo Villakainen in P9, and Pepe Fuentes completes the top 10. What's going to be the situation over in Formula 2? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say we also have the F2 driver standings as well. Same cars, just separated by the I rating over here. It's been Barry West standing on top, 28 points that he leads over Keith Herner. Kind of another equidistant gap between Keith and Miguel Moreland, but look at that. Really tightens up. That's the battle for 4th place between Pablo Suarez and Sam Ryman. We'll have to keep an eye on if any of these are in the top split over here. And then once again, it really tightens up. Kurt Clapper, Shady Ahmad, Robert Simpkins, and Bjorn Ackerman. Only about 10 points separating those 4 drivers. So with today and then Long Beach on the schedule, just have to keep an eye on if any of these points swing around into different positions.
Yeah, there's still a little bit of leeway for a few modifications to the schedule by the time we get to the end of the last race at Long Beach. Here are your race details for today's event. In the meantime, round 11 out of 12, the penultimate round in this 3rd season of the Sunday Grand Prix Series for 2023. 19 laps around this 5.8 kilometer circuit, making for just over 110 kilometers or 68.5 miles of race distance. Open setup, being that you can actually bring in a dialed-in car if you wish to, but no spare car available. And with the scarce availability of runoff, there is runoff at turn 1 as well as 130R, among others, and spoon curve. Otherwise, there is basically grass on the left and right side. And if you go 1 tire above the grass, it can get very tricky. It can send you off into the tires that are still ridiculously close for a permanent racetrack around here. And of course, being an official series, a drive-through penalty will be issued to drivers as soon as they reach 17 incident points collected, with a disqualification being issued at 25. And I guess we can get straight into qualifying with less than 3 minutes remaining. We're already seeing a couple interesting times being put on the board. Jukka Tolonen currently at the top of the table with a 145.498. Juho Rainer, the closest contender, 9/10 adrift.
I think the car that I've really got my eye on as they're really settling into their second lap right now, Togo Hisada, the number 3 car. Now, he has not put down a lap time yet, but Togo is much more familiar with the Lotus 49 cars. However, he has started to spread his wings, if you will. I've seen a lot of them in Camel, and then also dipping a toe in the Lotus 79 cars as well.
This is actually going to be a very, very good, well, I say learning experience for Togo Hisada with what you've actually just told us, with him being more experienced with cars that are much more reliant on mechanical grip, where aerodynamic grip is pretty much non-existent, as there's no really any aerodynamic appendices. With the jump to Lotus 79 and also, I'm assuming, the GTP class, I'm guessing in the Camel GT series, it is going to be a little bit of a time of adaptation for him to try and get the grasp of how to drive a high downforce car, also the kind of transition point from mechanical grip to pure aerodynamic grip on some of the more medium speed corners. It's going to be a very, very exciting time to see how he progresses with that, as we're currently following along with him through 130R, pretty much just flat out 260 Ks as he enters the corner, then big braking zone heading down towards the Casio triangle. A little bit of a nibbling of the curb on the way in. Keep the car straight, make sure to not go too fast on the throttle. Entering into the final corner, then hug the wall as you go across the line to score a time of 145.830, putting him in third at the timetable.
I think everything that you said was spot on about Togo hopping into these higher downforce cars. Take a look at a few more cars that are still out there qualifying. I believe this is the number 17. Oh, that's Gernot Frischa, I'm sorry, in the number 1 car. And he's actually provisionally second on the board. You got to be careful about this guy, because if he qualifies with good track position, he's going to be a threat to claim that checkered flag for sure.
Yeah, and also he's going to be trying his best to try and maybe take that second place away from Timothy Reed, given that he's not starting today. We might be seeing in Long Beach, we don't know. But that is going to be a very solid opportunity for this driver in the number 1 car to try and get some good points going, and he will be signing a 145.472. Straight to the top of the table he goes. 200ths clear, of Jukka Tolonen, as we're currently following along with one of the cars in the hairpin, the number 15. That seems to be Kurt Clapper.
Yeah, now traditionally Kurt actually starts at the back of the field, and we actually just ran out of time in qualifying, so that's exactly where he's going to be to start it.
All right, so Kurt Clapper, just like Jason Clapper, starting at the bottom, doing a little bit of last to first challenge once again, as we're used to seeing them over the course of the Lotus 79 Grand Prix series. But let's take a look at what the starting grid will look like here for this penultimate race of the season. Gernot Frischa then starting in first place with a 145.472. Jukka Tolonen in second place, completing the first row with a 145.498 on row 2. Togo Isada, a respectable third place ahead of Juho Raina. Then we have Phil Reed in P5, Dylan Freckleton in P6. Row 4, Nathan Finnegan and Pepe Fuentes, and on row 5, Barry West qualifying 9th ahead of John Stevens.
Then in 11th place, we have Seamus Power in his number 9 car. Pablo Suarez is going to be next to him there on row number 6. Then we have Emilio Fernandez Garrido in the 13th spot. Thomas Silbernagel 14th. Steve Sarles in 15th. Jason Clapper going to be starting back there in 16th, as well as Kurt Clapper 17th. And Andrew Eng is going to round out your 18-car field.
18-car field. There were about 34 entrants in this official time slot, so we are, of course, having to split. And you can see the grids currently being formed. We're missing the left side, we're missing the pole sitter, and we're missing 2nd, 4th, and 6th from what I can see from the grid, at least on the first 3 rows. Yep, my assumption was correct, and we're also missing 7th position from what it looks like. So we are currently being gridding up for what is to be the penultimate race of the season around this exciting Suzuka circuit. I don't know about you, Joy, but the start of Suzuka is always something special with that decreasing radius in turns 1 and 2.
It's so tricky. You really have to be in control of your vehicle the whole time, and if you go charging into it, you oftentimes find yourself off in that runoff or gravel.
Well, the time has come to go racing, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody seems to be in place, unless we might be missing another car that I might be not being able to see. There it is, another car popping, and yeah, there we go. Lap count is coming on. The revs, sorry, are starting to rise. The lights are on, and for the penultimate time this season, the field is let loose, and we're racing in Suzuka. Good start from Jukka Tolonen, actually in the number 4 car, going side by side with Gernot Frischa, heading into turn number 1. Also, Togo Hisara going a little bit slow, getting overtaken by Juho Raina, and that's going to be the lead change here, and already contact with the number 3 of Togo Hisara being sent off wide into turn 2. He's going to lose a ton of places as we make it our way through the S's. It's going to be the number 7 of Juho Raina, sitting in 2nd position with a brilliant start under his belt.
Yeah, a little disappointing for Togo Hisada, and you see, I believe that's Dylan Freckleton with 2 wheels up on the curb. Everybody just trying to get settled out as they work their way through this S section known as the Snake, and now heading off into the Degner Bends for the first time.
Coming on to Degna here as we're following along with, it seems as that this Gernot Fritzsche currently in the number 1 car in second place. Then behind him, I don't know, the number 7 car, that is indeed Juho Rainer, Dylan Freckleton and yeah, Phil Reed, I think it is. Yeah, currently sitting in 5th position in a crash. That is, that's Togo. He's looped it. It seems like we got sent off into the barrier just after Degna on the run down to the hairpin. And what's going from bad to worse is going to even worse than worse for Togo. Unfortunately for him, being relegated to the back of the field, some 15 seconds down. In the meantime, the rest of the field is making their way through Spoon Curve as we are currently following along with Phil Reed, chasing down very, very hard Dylan Freckleton, as we can see on their way up to 130R.
I really got a feel for Togo there. Just like you said, when things go from bad to worse, that's exactly what happens as the field goes through 130R for the first time. This is kind of that purple car. That's Dylan Freckleton. You can always identify him from that British TVR purple themed scheme.
And we gotta say, Dylan Freckleton, one of the men who graduated from Formula 2, has actually made a pretty solid performance over the course of this season, sitting 5th in the standings, grabbing podiums on a few occasions, and slowly building up the momentum. We were talking about it a little bit earlier on before we went live, as we can see Phil Reed continuing to pile on the pressure and continuing to howl behind the car of Freckleton as we're currently moving on board. It seems like with Phil Reed just behind Dylan Freckleton as we go through the S's.
Something interesting to note about the driver who we're sitting on top of his shoulders right now. He's actually racing with the controller. We nicknamed him the Controller King over here, Phil Reed. So, yeah, it's extremely impressive what Phil is able to do. Not only that, but, I mean, he's got 6,000 I rating as well.
Now, if I may have a bit of a personal parenthesis, that is a man of my people, and I more than respect being able to pull off that kind of driving and being that much of a wheelman with just a controller, because let me tell you, it is hard, especially with the very, very short throw that you have on the stick and the mapping that you have to do. It requires insane thumb control to get the steering right, but when you get to do that, it is insanely satisfying to do so, as we're continuing to see the number 2 car, Phil Reed, just chasing down Freckleton, and then behind him, Pepe Fuentes and Nathan Finnegan, not having too shabby of starts either, with 6th and 7th in the back for now.
It's a little 4-pack right here. It's a spicy little 4-pack, but I do think it really is Phil Reed applying that pressure up here to Dylan Freckleton. He's close enough to take a look down into the Casio triangle. Late on the brakes, he's able to make that move the Controller King up into the 4th spot.
Brilliant, brilliant stuff. Even more respect after that move from me for Phil Reed, as Jukka Tolonen sets the fastest lap of the race in the lead of that particular race with a 146.480. But watch out for Freckleton. He's not having this one. Taking this one lying down. He's going to be going around the outside of Phil Reed in turns 1 and 2 to retake the position away.
It's going to be interesting. Now, this is open setups like we touched on pre-race, so some of these cars, they're going to be running different downforce levels, and also where we saw Phil Reed overtake, it also leads into a giant front straightaway, and Dylan Freckleton just did an amazing job setting up the exit and retaking him back.
Yeah, indeed. But also, I think we should also watch out on the car behind him, the number 6 of Pepe Fuentes, who's just watching that little battle between Freckleton and Phil Reed unfold, and he's thinking, maybe if they just continue to slow each other down and just swap positions left, right, and center, I could actually make a 2-for-1 deal and spoil myself the point for 4th place, as we're currently seeing some moves being done by Degna 1 as we follow back with Freckleton and Phil Reed, who are just not letting each other go, pretty much.
I think that Phil Reed has a little bit more pace. Look at him all over the back of Freckleton. Yeah, not going to do anything down into Spoon Curve, but we're going to see if it's a little bit of deja vu going into Casio Triangle, or if Phil Reed is going to save it for turn 1 this time.
Well, we're going to have to wait and see, as they're currently barreling down towards the 130R. And actually, he's getting visibly closer and closer, Phil Reed. You can actually see over the camera here, overseeing his right front tire. Makes the move towards the other side of the track right here, drowns the inside. He's going to be on the outside on the braking for the Casio Triangle. Not exactly the ideal place to make the move stick. So it's going to be the Freckleton. Maybe a little bit of a bump. Not quite. Just a little bit of a sniff from the front wing of Reed on the back end of Freckleton there.
I love this duel, and like you said, watch out here. Here comes Fuentes. He's right in the tracks of Phil Reed. He's going to pop out. Driver's right. How deep on the brakes does he go? But yeah, turn one is just so tricky. You can really arc it in there and carry a ton of speed.
Yeah, this is tough. If you try to stick a move through turn one with the kind of deficit that you actually have, as Pepe Fuentes had when he tried to make that move. This is basically just a collision course very much guaranteed with the opponent up front, so he thought better of it. He decides to back out and bide his time as, yeah, we can see him just losing a little bit of time through the S's compared to Reed and Freckleton, but I think he can easily make that up in the second and the third sectors before sending potentially another move into the Casio Triangle if he manages to make that gap back up. But in the meantime, through Degna 1 and 2, they make it pretty much safe and sound. And actually, if we follow a little bit further back, Nathan Finnegan is also maybe trying to get a little bit in on the action as well.
He's the caboose on the train, this 4-pack that I was talking about. And actually, right behind the 4-pack, doesn't take much to check out the next camera shot, and there's even more. But look at this, almost 2 moves identical going down into Spoon. Finnegan on Fuentes, and then still Reed on Freckleton.
Yeah, Pepe Fuentes going a little bit wide at the exit of the first part of Spoon curve there, but managing to come away with it somewhat unscathed. That will definitely be an incident point going his way for sure. In the meantime, they all barrel their way down to 130R, and we see Phil just showing himself in the mirrors of Dylan at the present moment, going through 130R, maybe trying to set himself up. He's got a little bit more of a run, but not enough to actually make the move into Casio again like he did a few laps ago. Just a little bit of a hop of a curb on the way into Casio Triangle as, whoa, a bit of a hot moment there for Nathan Finnegan. Manages to keep it on the road, but he's going to be losing a ton of time, and now back down through the pit straight on lap number 5 we go, and it's still Reed chasing down, moving on to the inside. This time he's going to be alongside him. He's trying to make the move stick. It's going to be very, very tight into turns 1 and 2. Is going to make it. What a move from Dylan Freckleton, from Phil Reed on Dylan Freckleton, sorry, to move up into P4 once again. And watch out, Fuentes can still get a little bit of a slice of the pie.
I really liked that move from Phil Reed. He tried to do it the lap before, but Freckleton had a little bit of a better defense coming out of the triangle. But this time, Phil Reed was able to set it up nicely, get the pass down into turn number 1, and ultimately it ended in turn number 2. And I think that we're going to see that black and red car start to stretch that gap. We're going to see if Dylan Freckleton, how he handles the pressure from Pepe Fuentes now.
Yeah, especially as Fuentes was trying to make up a lot of gap as he tried to carry so much more speed, going a little bit later, or maybe not as much on the brakes, going through Degna 1. That could have cost him a little bit as he went a bit wide through the Degna 1, as a matter of fact. But here we are on board with Pepe Fuentes on the roll bar of his Lotus 79 in the number 6 car. And yeah, that's going to be the main job for him, catching up to Freckleton as he currently sits about a couple of tenths behind, I would say. Yeah, 3/10 of a second, as you can see from the totem on the left-hand side of the screen, and the gaps have stretched out quite a bit actually between each other. You can see about 4/10 of a gap between Freckleton and Reed, between Reed and Freckleton, and then between Freckleton and Paris is the exact same kind of gap as they go through 130R. Pepe Fuentes, a little bit of a curve on the way in, is going to be sending him out. Oh, the 17 stopped. Who is that in 17? That is Garrido. Oh no! Huge contact with Kurt Clapper. The worst place to be stopped, that is at the exit of Spoon Curve. Huge wreck between these two drivers. And it's going to be the 18 making its way through Andrew Ang. Ow, that is a violent impact.
Yeah, that's a tough one for sure. You know, you got a car parked pretty much perpendicular coming out of Spoon, and not very much time to react there. Not only that, but the track is extremely narrow in that section as well. You're going to see the car pretty much spun. He's going to be stopped perpendicular, and it's going to be the next one coming through here that's going to pretty much clobber him.
Yeah, he's going to reverse pretty much at the worst time. There it is. Oh, you can see the number 18. That is, of course, Andrew Eng managed to avoid it, but then clobbered the outer car on the outside. But in the other hand, Kurt Clapper, absolutely nowhere to go. That's
the virtual
really
world, thank God.
Yeah, thankfully it's the virtual world. There we go, the number 17 Garrido making his way into the pits, possibly to retire out of this particular number. That was it's still, even though it's a virtual, it's still a bit of a sickening impact, if I may be honest with you, as we're back along with that little 4-pack, which has been downsized to a 3-pack, as Phil is just basically checked out compared to the rest of the this little group. He's half a second ahead of Freckleton, who still has to deal with Fuentes and Finnegan, who's also in hot pursuit.
And I think if Phil is able to stretch this out a little bit more, I think then we're going to see Fuentes really attack Freckleton, because we got to remember here in iRacing, Dylan Freckleton still has the help of the slipstream following Phil Reed in front of him, so it's almost kind of like a fishing pole. He's attached to it, that bumper in front of him. He's getting the tow down the straightaway, which is helping his defense with the car behind him.
Now, the thing I'm maybe asking, sure, he's got the slipstream, but isn't that also going to be hampering him, that sort of dirty air that the Lotus 79 produces in the mid-speed sequences, like, for instance, the S's that we're about to come up to now?
Absolutely. It's a give-and-take battle. I think the tow probably a little bit stronger than the dirty air that he has to deal with, though, so it's probably more beneficial than how bad the dirty air is coming off of the car in front of you.
Oh, indeed, yeah. Put it that way, it is all about net positives after all. As you can see, Freckleton going a little bit wide, though, through the first part of the S's, so he's going to be losing a lot of time hand over fist compared to Phil Reed, and that's going to allow Pepe Fuentes to just bridge the gap a tiny bit closer, a teensy tiny bit closer, just 0.2 of a second. You can see Fuentes now getting a solid run as they make their way through Decna, but it's not really a place to pass. He's just going to have to sit behind Freckleton, bide his time, maybe try to set up a move at the hairpin with a good exit from Decna too. A little bit of a sideways action, not quite. Everybody keeping it nice and clean, and Pepe still too far to make an attack unless he really lunges on the brakes, but thinks better of it.
I think that Freckleton was really struggling in the first half of this lap, especially. Like you called out, he kind of lost touch to Phil Reed right in front of him. Fuentes is all over the back of him. Let's see if he can gather it back up here through Spoon Curve and down the straightaway towards 130R.
Coming onto the run up to 130R, Phil Reed, yeah, just watching that little battle going on behind and saying, okay, I'm not having anything to do with it, I'm just doing my own little thing. And yeah, Phil Reed managing to pull a gap of almost a second compared to the little duel behind him of Freckleton and Fuentes. Fuentes putting himself on the left-hand side of the road, trying to show himself in the mirrors of Freckleton. So far, it's still a little bit too far back, making their way slowly but surely through the Castillo Triangle. Also, be very careful on when you actually apply the throttle there, as if you have any tiny bit of steering angle, it's just going to be carrying over and you might be in for a very wild ride. As Jukka Tolonen continues to pile on fastest lap after fastest lap with a .639.
Something to note about this lead battle, Gernot Frische has been closing it in, and maybe not closing it, but he's stayed stationary right there at about a half a second the entire race so far. And traditionally, Gernot Frische gets faster and faster as the race goes on. That's just his driving style. He seems to get more and more comfortable the closer he gets to the checkered flag.
Yeah, as you can see in the lap comparison chart right here, Jukka Tolonen versus Gernot Frische, and yeah, you can see Gernot not really managing to keep around the pace, but losing a couple of hundredths to about a tenth of a second at the worst during the last 3 laps or so. So Gernot is going to have to keep tabs on the Finn and not let him sprint away too far. As you can see on the exit of the hairpin on the run up to Spoon, Jukka manages to get so much good exit speed and manages to widen the gap a tiny bit to 0.7 of a second on the way to Spoon Curve now.
We have to remember, Gernot Frische has 147 wins here in the Lotus 79 series, so he knows how to get it done. He doesn't put nearly as much practice time in as he used to, but he definitely knows how to collect a checkered flag.
Making their way through 130R, following along with the race leader, Jukka Tolonen, about to cross the line to start lap number 9. Close to the halfway mark of this race, actually. 19 laps in total, as we're going on board now with Gernot Frische on the roll bar of his #1 Lotus. As you can see, Jukka just hugging this wall on the other side of the track, and then we see Gernot getting back into the slipstream of Jukka as he gets a little bit closer and closer to the race leader, heading into turn #1. And so far, yeah, the gap's still remaining stationary, but actually managing to chip away a teensy tiny bit in the braking zone to about a quarter of a second, I think.
I think it's the ebb and flow, the give and take of that downforce versus the dirty air that you were mentioning. And so I think Gernot is pretty much as close as he wants to get right now without getting too much into that dirty air, but still getting the benefit of the tow. But we are about halfway through. You're going to have to start to close it up and apply the pressure to Jukka at some point.
Yeah, it's going to be getting close to the money time now for Gernot if he wants to convert this into a potential victory here in Suzuka. In the meantime, going back to a little bit of a hot group, yeah, Freckleton and Fuentes still at it, about 3 to 4 tenths of a second at all times between each other. There are the 2 cars, #5 and the #6, one behind the other, and you could see, oh, the #13 of, I think it is John Stevens, as well as, well, Shima's Power is a little bit further behind, but yeah, John Stevens also having a little bit of a slice of a pie as well. Nathan Finnegan, that was the car. I keep confusing all the cars. I'm very sorry about this, guys. Brain power a bit of 110%. But yeah, Nathan Finnegan still continuing to keep a keen eye on the proceedings out there and seeing Freckleton run out wide on the run from the exit of Spoon Curve and just getting behind Pepe Fuentes, trying to catch a little bit of the slipstream on the run onto 130R. He could have a solid run out here.
Yeah, but he's not going to have anywhere to go with it through 130R. Let's see how able he's close here. Finnegan's going to go driver's left. Fuentes actually really deep on the defensive line. Almost got into the back of Freckleton just with that little bit of a lockup.
Yeah, and in the meantime, Tolonen 0.375, still another fastest lap of the race, but that's actually the lockup that's going to be giving the advantage to Finnegan, as that compromised the line of Fuentes to the Casio Triangle. They're now side by side as they head into turn 1. Pepe Fuentes sticking to the outside. Someone has to yield, and Nathan Finnegan sticks it up the inside of turn 2. What a great move from Finnegan, relegating Fuentes down to 7th position just before the start of the S's, but both of them have lost pretty much hand over fist compared to Dylan Freckleton, who's just going to have to manage the race in P5 for now.
I can't say enough about the sportsmanship in this series. That was a fantastic pass from Finnegan on Fuentes, but crucially, Fuentes left enough room on the racetrack and just enough room for Freckleton to make that pass, and the race goes on. These guys are still racing for the positions now. Just awesome sportsmanship.
Yeah, sportsmanship and great positional and race awareness from the part of Pepe Fuentes. He decides to stick with the outside line and not try to shut the door in a bit of a desperate move, shutting the door too late, which would result in a contact. So great heads up from Pepe Fuentes, but yeah, great sportsmanship, as you said. As we see, I think it is, well, Freckleton currently trying to catch up to Phil Reed. Freckleton trying to catch up to Phil Reed, and Finnegan also trying to catch up to Freckleton as well.
I'm surprised that Phil hasn't been able to gap it out as much, and I think that this is more a story about Dylan Freckleton, that purple car right in the middle here. He has shown tremendous progress up through the ranks here in this Lotus 79 community, but I feel like when he usually cracks a little bit is when he has a ton of pressure in his mirrors. Let's see how he handles the remaining 8 laps to go here for these drivers, or if he's able to hang on to that 5th position.
Yeah, it's all about managing the pressure, soaking it up nice and easy, and just holding onto the steering wheel for dear life at this point, or onto the controller for dear life at this point. In the case of Phil Reed, as yeah, he still has a bit of a buffer to manage against Dylan Freckleton right now for the benefit of 4th position. In the meantime, Finnegan and Fuentes are just right back at it. Fuentes just wants to get a little bit of revenge, but also Finnegan is eager to actually get a little bit more and just settle a top 5 finish here.
Well, we are about halfway through. We're going to have to see who's got it for the last half of the race, but it's really interesting to see these three. They've changed their positions within themselves, but they haven't gapped it out at all. It seems like they're still just kind of grouped together, almost identical in terms of pace.
Just a quick update about our biggest mover of the race. Jason Clapper started 16th, currently sitting in 10th place, just behind Josh Stevens. And actually, Josh Stevens into the wall, the number 13, as we are currently following along with Nathan Finnegan through the hairpin. Yeah, there it is, the number 13 of Josh Stevens, who went into the wall at the exit of Deckner 2 and actually completely lost it at the exit of Deckner 2 just before, which promotes everyone up a place, including Jason Clapper, now up to 9th position. He's lost big time there, and I'm hoping we're going to be able to see a replay of this, as, yeah, we were following along with the battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th up ahead of the hairpin. Here's what happened then to Josh Stevens. There we go into Deckner 2, just goes in too hot, and that's it, and backs it into the Arco, and hits with the right side, actually. I hope there isn't too much damage in that car.
Usually we see it on the corner exit, but this is just too much speed going in. Yeah, it's just way too much speed going into Deckner 2, and ultimately the rear came around, and once you lose that grip, that yaw angle comes into effect, there is no saving it in these cars.
Yeah, absolutely not. Thankfully, it seems as though the car might be sound. I wonder how the suspension is looking, because he actually hit it I feel like it was a somewhat hard hit with the right rear, but it looks as though the car is pretty straight and still driving around, so he's still going to continue to drive the wheels off of this thing, continuing to sit in P12 at the moment, and he has about a 3-second deficit to catch up to the next driver up this list, which is Pablo Suarez. sitting in 11th position. Now back to the hot bunch at the P5, 6, and 7. It's still Freckleton Finnegan now closer than what we've seen in the last few laps, and maybe we can see Finnegan trying to set himself up a move. Oh, he's going to have a little bit of a moment there, losing a little bit of time in the process at the exit of Deckner 2. He's not going to try to go for a suicidal move into the hairpin, although we do see Freckleton widening the corner a little bit, maybe setting himself up for a much better exit acceleration, like a much better run through the throttle as they make their run down towards Spoon.
You see a few varying lines through the hairpin like you were just mentioning, and usually when you have that more open radius, you're right, it allows you to put the power down coming out on the corner exit a little bit, which honestly is the most important part of that hairpin. But here we go, there's the run down to 130R. Nathan Finnegan right in the tire tracks of Dylan Freckleton up front, and I think he's actually close enough that he might be able to make a move down here into the triangle. You see Freckleton really use the middle part of the racetrack in his defense.
Yeah, great defending on the part of Freckleton there. It looks as though he was staying somewhat stationary in terms of the gaps between Freckleton and Finnegan through before the 130R, but then he looked as though he had a pretty solid run. But yeah, great defense from Freckleton. Great positioning of the car to keep it nice, to be able to defend his current little piece of track in his P5 at the moment. And actually, both of them managing to eat away at the advantage that Phil Reed has. Phil currently, he used to have a second, now he's down to just half a second to manage that little hot bunch behind him.
I noticed that as well. I was curious to see if Phil Reed was going to be able to run away, but he hasn't. Dylan Freckleton has that lure firmly attached to the wing, and he is just not letting go.
Yeah, absolutely not letting go. In the meantime, behind him, we see Finnegan having a little bit of a better exit from these outside of the S's, but he's forced to actually stamp on the anchors to avoid hitting Freckleton on the run to Degna 1. This is going to be pretty much round whatever number it is at this point between these two as we make our way through the hairpin. Finnegan a little bit closer, but decides to just try to make it a little bit more viable to make it through to the Spoon curve. And once again, some varying lines with Finnegan sticking all the way to the curb on the inside, keeping nice and tight, hugging the apex pretty much as they now make their run down towards Spoon. And it's still about 1 or 2 tenths visually, and you can see it in the timing tower as well between these two as we make our way down through 130R once again. Who's going to get the better run at the exit of Spoon? It seems as though we got a pretty solid run there for Finnegan. Look at this, he's getting closer and closer and closer visibly. He stakes it to the outside. Is he going to be able to complete the move before 130R? Yes, the speed differential is pretty much in favor of Finnegan. Manages to make the move stick into 5th position, and look who's there. Pepe Fuentes, maybe to take a move onto the Casio triangle. No, he's on the outside, not really in the most favorable position, but also we have a very late braking Freckleton wanting to defend his place after at all costs. I keep messing up the words. Non-English speaker here, native English speaker here, but it's still quite close, and it's still extremely close with Pepe Fuentes maybe trying something up into T1. He's going to try to stick it in the inside, or at least show himself in the mirrors, maybe into turn 2. This is going to be very, very tight. Great heads up from Freckleton leading in the space, but he's not done with him. He's got a much better run from the exit of turn 2 heading into the S's. He could end in contact. This could end in tears. Oh my god, what an amazing piece of driving from these two so far. This is so tense, so tense. Freckleton manages to prevail in that battle. Wow.
Talk about putting your boxing gloves on if you're Dylan Freckleton. Fuentes tried to send it up the inside, but Freckleton was having none of it there in turns 1 and 2. And we're going to see if Dylan can kind of regather himself, because we were talking about how Dylan hasn't let go of Phil Reed. Well, Finnegan was able to get around Freckleton because of a mistake coming out of the Spoon curve. Let's see if Dylan can gather it back up, go close down that gap to Finnegan, or if he's going to have his hands full with Fuentes in his mirror.
Yeah, this is going to be a very, very interesting development in that race for 6th and 5th position, as we currently see Fuentes going a little bit wide there, all over the curve and into the AstroTurf, into the first part of Spoon curve. But you can see the gaps have somewhat widened, with a little bit of an accordion effect of the gaps depending on the laps. But so far it is to the advantage of Freckleton, who's going to have a little bit of room to breathe at the very least for the next few corners or so, especially heading through the Casio triangle, knowing that Fuentes is too far back to make any kind of attempt, unless I might have been lied to by Pepe Fuentes, who's still really stamped on the anchors really late. But watch out, Tolonen being forced out wide into turns 1 and 2 as we rejoin with the battle for the lead. It's Fritzsche making the move to take the lead of the race with a 1:45.810 as well, the fastest lap, courtesy of the number 1 car.
And that was just a really good move from Gernot Frische. He was able to poke his nose down into turn number 1, but let me tell you, he wasn't really alongside. He wasn't there, but he was just able to push Jukka Tolvanen pretty much off the line. Jukka went too deep on the brakes, went out into the marbles there on the exit of 1 and 2, and Gernot Frische just slipped right underneath as we get the shot of this replay here of the pass.
There we go, right in the slipstream, gets the run, chooses the inside. He's not really alongside him, but actually it's Tolvanen who got it a little bit too wide there and then just ran on the curb in the middle of turns 1 and 2. That's what really triggered the slowdown there from Tolvanen, which allowed Frische to go through. But still, great attempt from Frische, which ultimately worked out pretty much the way he would have wanted it to. But now he's going to have a very, very hot Tolvanen to actually hold on to and hold back for the next 4 to 5 laps.
I don't think Jukka's done with the battle yet at all, and I'll have to go back and look, see exactly when Gernot had his last Lotus 79 win. I know it's been a while. He's been on the podium quite a handful of times, but I'll have to go back and check the records. This could be a big one for that number 1 car.
That could be indeed a very, very big one for the number 1 car as he continues to get chased down by Jukka Tolvanen, heading onto the next lap. 4 to go, starting now in this race. And you can see weaving, trying to break the toe. Gernot Frische trying to defend his first place against Jukka Tolvanen. Behind him, Juho Rainer is a long way back, 4 seconds down compared to his fellow compatriot. Oh, and actually Tolvanen looking a little bit hairy there between turns 1 and 2 once again. And that's definitely going to be settling the matter in favor of Gernot Frische here. And someone spinning round. Who is that? I do not see the number of the car. That's the number 9, I think. Yeah, that is going to be Seamus Power. Seamus Power at the Casio Triangle, losing a ton of places, dropping down to P11, even P12 maybe.
And I'm looking, Gernot Frische's last win came February 2021 at Barber Motorsports Park. So if Frische can hang on to it, this one could be huge.
Okay, let's see what happened. Oh, got it really, really loose. Oh, and collected the number 10 as well of Jason Clapper. That is very, very unfortunate stuff to have. He was just trying to save it as much as he could, but then ends up locking up, trying to save that through the Casio Triangle, and that ends up collecting and eventually penalizing Clapper as well.
Yeah, I know that we were covering that, and I saw that battle developing definitely between Seamus and Jason. Oh. Unfortunate that it ended there, and yeah, this is Freckleton and Fuentes at it again.
Yeah, this time still for the benefit of 6th position. And yeah, this is continuing to be a very, very hot contest that gives us more than we ever bargained for here in this race so far between these two, as we're currently continuing to see Pepe Fuentes very, very close to make a breakthrough, but he just needs that little window of opportunity to make it strike. And now he's going to have to try and make it happen, maybe through the Casio Triangle, running through 130 or trying to catch up to Freckleton. He's got a pretty solid run, chooses the outside. He's going to be trying to go as late on the brakes as he ever can muster. It's going to be side by side through the triangle. Watch out not to touch. It's still going to be Freckleton managing to get a better run, maybe. Well, managing to get a pretty solid exit, but maybe a tiny bit of a better run from Pepe Fuentes, who is right back into the slipstream, into the rear of Freckleton. Freckleton trying to weave to break the toe. Using the inside with Pepe Fuentes. Is he going to try to go on the brakes? No, I don't think so. He's still going to be fitting behind Freckleton in turns 1 and 2. That was looking a little bit close, though. I wonder if it's going to be even closer. I guess it will be even closer by the end of that lap. 3 to go.
The other one that I'm noticing is right in front of this. Remember, Nathan Finnegan and Phil Reed, they were involved in the battle. Well, Finnegan has chased down Phil Reed. So while we've been watching Fuentes and Freckleton, we also have to keep an eye on Finnegan and Reed, especially now that we're working only about 2.5 laps left remaining.
Ooh, Finnegan struggled really hard to go through Degner's 1 and 2. Exited Degner 1, he was looking very, very sideways, and Degner 2 even more sideways. In the meantime, yeah, it's still very much the battle of the track here in between the number 5 and the number 6 cars. I'm eventually going to get these right. Don't worry about it, guys. And in the meantime, Tolvanen manages to slash a little bit of the gap that had widened quite a bit with that little bit of hot moment in Degna 1. And he's now down to just 4/10 down, which could still be in for a potential last lap move here on this race at Suzuka. We're heading to 2 to go after the Casio Triangle, breaking very, very late there. Tolvanen trying to catch up with a little bit of yo-yo effect again on the gaps. 2 to go. Gernot Frische still leads, but can he hold on?
This is what I was talking about. Jukka Tolvanen is not out of this fight yet. And like you said, working 2 laps left. Fastest lap of the race goes to that number 4 car. 1 minute 45.7 the last time around.
He has really the bit between his teeth. He is a man on a mission, the Finn in the number 4 car, driving through the S's, continuing to chase hard Gernot Fritzsche in that leading number 1 car in the delightful Rosso Corsa Red. In the meantime, Fuentes around the outside of Freckleton. That is a brilliant move, managing to roll it around. But watch out for Freckleton. Is he going to be trying to go back at it? No, he slots in behind Fuentes as we cut right back. Fuentes makes a brilliant move in the first 2 corners.
Really just a power move around the outside of 1 and 2, and unfortunately for Freckleton, we see him continue to fall down the order, but I think crucially, he hasn't made any mistakes out there. I think he still ran a very solid race.
Yeah, that is true. Not any kind of blunders to be noted, whereas there have been a few unfortunate accidents. That of Togo Isada a little bit earlier on, early on in the race. Garrido and Kurt Clapper's unfortunate encounter midway through the track, midway through the race at the exit of Spoon Curve that ended in a very, very nasty shunt. But yeah, so far, clean race from Dylan Freckleton, but it's just, I feel like it's going to be a bit frustrating for him to see everybody just overtaking him left, right, and center over the course of these last few laps. He's going to have to maybe try to mount a comeback for P6 behind Fuentes as we're heading towards the last lap on the perspective of the leaders. It's still Fritzsche ahead by half a second as we're heading through that final lap.
And Jukka is actually very close going on to the front straightaway here. You see Gernot kind of move down the straightaway, break whatever draft he can. And something I was noticing, Gernot pretty wiggly through these tight technical sections. He might be running a little bit of a lower downforce. Look for Jukka to really close it up here.
Also, we had a little bit of a back end flailing as he touched the curb, Tolvanen, on the run into turn 1 as we go from the back end of Fritzsche's car. And you can see that that number 4 car, the Jukka Pauli special number 4 car, continuing to harass Gernot Fritzsche in the moment for the lead of the race. This is turning out to be a pretty harrowing moment, maybe for the leader. So close to getting his first race win since February of 2021, as you pointed out, through the 2 Decna corners, heading up to the hairpin. Has he done enough? He currently has a 4/10 to half a second advantage over Tolvanen.
Yeah, out of the hairpin. Let's see if he's able to put the power down. And I think crucially, out of these 2 cars, what I'm seeing is Jukka is all up on the wheel. I think he's burned his tires off. I'm not sure how much speed his car has left. The driver, that's a different story.
Yeah, driver is a totally different story, but yeah, maybe the title has been all used up. There's not any juice left, unless we might have been lied to if he gets a solid run through Spoon. I don't know. I think Gernot's got it, unless it's going to be a bonsai move at the Cassio Triangle. I really don't see how Gernot can actually see this victory escape his grasp through 130R. They go through the final time. You can see Tolvanen struggling a little bit, moving into the inside through the Cassio Triangle for the final time, heading into the final corner to the checker flag. And ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in over 2 years, Gernot Fritzsche is your winner in the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series round at Suzuka. Jukka Tolvanen, a valiant race for second place. In the meantime, it's still the battle between Phil Reed and Nathan Finnegan, but on the oh my god, almost contact between Fuentes and Freckleton. Fuentes rejoining the track, but he's going to be slowing down. Obviously, it's going to be benefiting Freckleton maybe to the line, but no, Fuentes keeps his position. Phil Reed, in the meantime, we were talking up ahead, manages to hold on to 4th place despite a resurging Finnegan in the last stages. Juho Raina finishes in 3rd. What a finish to this round.
Oh my goodness. And you know, I'll have to go back and see exactly what happens as you see Jason Clapper come across the start-finish line. He's going to be our biggest mover today, up 8 positions for Jason.
8 positions for Jason. That is a very, very respectable going from 16th to 8th. In the space of 19 laps, starting all the way at the back on the penultimate row. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be concluding this race in the Lotus 79 Grand Prix Series. We'll be taking on a short break, and when we come back, we will be back with the post-race results as well as the driver interviews for potentially the top 3. Who knows? Stay with us.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Well, that was a barn burner of a race, wasn't it, Joey? And we're about to look at it through the standings. They only tell half the story because we've had a brilliant race for the lead and also a brilliant race in the middle of the pack with Gernot Fritzsche eventually prevailing half a second ahead of Jukka Tolonen.
Yeah, and you see that there. It was a fantastic finish to that. And reading through here, the top 10, Gernot Fritzsche, like you said, claiming that victory the first time since 2021. His last one was Barber Motorsports Park, so you know he's happy. Jukka Tolonen finishing second, Juho Raina finishing out the podium there in third, Phil Reed fourth, Nathan Finnegan chasing him the whole time, finishing in fifth. Fuentes and Freckleton, that battle settles with Fuentes in sixth, Dylan Freckleton finishing seventh, Jason Clapper, our biggest mover of the day, in eighth, Barry West ninth, and Pablo Suarez rounding out your top 10.
In P11, continuing the standings, number 9 of Sheamus Power being involved in the late race, some late drama through the Casio Triangle. John Stevens in P12, P13 for Thomas Silbernagel, Andrew Ang finishing in 14th, Steve Stalls in P15, and then the unfortunates who had to retire and were involved in accidents, Emilio Fernandez Garrido and Kirk Clapper involved in that very vicious crash at the exit of the spoon curve, and then of course Togo Hesada, who just had the worst lap one ever in my books. That was a very, very, very unfortunate circumstances of events for Togo, who started in second in this race, remember. Very, very painful to see. In the meantime, it seemed as though we do have our race winner standing by, and Joe, I'm going to be letting you take over with Gernot Fritzsche, your race winner.
Gernot, congratulations. How does that top step feel again?
Hi, Joey. Yeah, feels good. I think this was the right place and right time once again. After a long time, obviously.
Yeah, we were looking through it. It's been a couple years. I think Barber Motorsports Park was your last official win here in the Lotus 79 series. So, yeah, this is great to see you back on top, and not only back on top, but beating one of the best, Jukka Tolonen, to do it.
Yeah, that's amazing. This series is really tough because there's so many quick guys, and this week maybe has been a little bit easier with some of the top guys missing. But Jukka gave me a hell of a race, and it was really hard after I lost the start. Then I had to somehow plan my race.
So talk to me about once he got by Jukka. It seemed like he burned his tires off, but he was also able to close back in the gap. And I was noticing your car looked pretty loose as well. Were you kind of on a lower downforce setup?
Yes, for sure. I was on a low downforce setup. So I was quite confident in the beginning of the race, even when I fell back, because I knew I should have a good chance on the straights to pass Jukka. And actually, I tried to open up a gap to Juho, who was also strong from behind. And once we had a little gap, I started pushing and maybe wait for Jukka to make a mistake. So he didn't really make a mistake, but I tried to keep the pressure up and slowly increase my pace. And finally got a chance to pass him.
Well, and you executed it extremely well down there in turns 1 and 2. And like I said, congratulations on the top step, taking home another checkered flag. Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
As usual, you guys, because those broadcasts really add a lot to the series, and of course to all the other guys running this series, because it's for me it's the most fun place to be within iRacing. So it's always good to be back. So yeah, congrats to Yuka and Juha as well. So strong Finns again. So see you guys. Bye bye.
Well, move it up one more from 147 wins, now 148 wins in the Lotus 79 series. Your winner today, that was Gernot Friesche.
All right, thank you very much, Joey, for that nice interview with Gernot. And in the meantime, we are in with our unfortunate, maybe, runner-up of the day. That is going to be Jukka Tolonen in the Jukka Pauli Special number 4 car. Jukka, talk to us about the start. Once you actually got past, you seem to have a lot better run off the line compared to Gernot right from the start, and managing to get past him past turn 1 and 2. How did you manage to actually get that power down through? And also, how was the race management moving forward right up until the midway through the race?
Well, I saw already in the pre-broadcast race that Gernot has crazy top speed, so I pretty much knew the possibilities were on the first lap, and especially the start. So yeah, I had investigated with the gears and clutch bite points and everything to optimize it, and really got a nice start. But maybe Gernot had a little bit weak start. The difference wasn't big in the pre-broadcast race, so yeah, I was lucky to be leading, but I also knew that Gernot would be really fast in the end of the race, and he would have that crazy top speed, so it would be hard to keep him behind. So my hope was to get away in the first laps, basically, and break the draft, but that didn't happen, and then it's a nightmare to watch Gernot in your mirrors the whole race. So yeah, then eventually I got a little bit worse exit than other laps. I was bouncing from the curbs in the last corner, and then Gernot got good enough draft, and I was stupid and gave him the inside line. So then it was almost impossible to keep the place anymore. So I
must imagine that the side of Gernot just continuing to close in is a very, very harrowing side, not just to you, but to any driver with the amount of... We were actually talking to Gernot, and he was running a bit of a low downforce setup. Were you in any kind of similar setup, or were you managing to to get a little bit more aerodynamic grip on the car overall? Because it seemed like you were maybe burning your tires off as you were trying to catch up to Gernot. You were looking a little bit loose towards the end.
Yeah, I had definitely more downforce than Gernot. I actually removed some of that for this race, as I saw how fast Gernot was on straights. But yeah, I think it was mostly just that I was pushing as much as I could, and also the driving behind someone on a track like this is hard. So
yeah, that's it. That will do to you. A combo of tires that are very, very well used up, and also the sort of aero wash or dirty air that tends to penalize your car. Well, Suzuka done. Main question I want to ask you is: will we see you in Long Beach?
It's a little bit of an open question still. I'm not sure. Could be that I'm not home, but let's see.
All right, let's see. Then I guess glass half full. Still, congratulations on that second place. I know it might have been a little bit less than what you wanted. And if you want to thank anyone, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad to see Gernot win, and it was a nice race. So yeah, congrats, and of course all the CTC guys and you for the broadcast. And yeah, thanks. See you.
All right, see you, Jukka. That was your second place driver for this race, Jukka Tolonen. And last but not least is a man we're very happy to see return to the field for the first time since Phillip Island and racking up fourth place. That is none other than the number 2 car driver, Phil Reed.
Phil, congratulations on your fourth place finish today. It seemed like you had cars in your mirror the whole race.
Certainly seemed that way, yes. Yeah, that was a good one. It was a bit tricky, but yeah, it was very good fun. A lot of pressure from behind, but yeah, managed to keep it in the end.
What was your mindset like the whole race? Because you were kind of stuck behind Dylan for a little bit, but once you got by him, you were able to open up a little bit of a gap. But it seems like as soon as you were able to open up that gap, they never let go of your rear wing. They were just always there on you. Was it focused forward the whole time?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny because I've been in a chat with my friend, voice chat. We've been having a chat about things. So the first 10 laps, I was kind of just focused on that, which is actually in the end, I think it was quite good because it kind of kept my mind off the pressure from behind a little bit. But yeah, like once I'd got past Dylan, I think it was all about just keeping it sort of consistent, not really letting him have a chance because I knew he had a bit more straight line. I think I'm assuming that he's running a little bit less downforce. I knew that if he got close, then he'd just sail by like he did after I passed him on like lap 3. And then I saw and I was looking back and I was like, I see about lap 10. Nathan is 7th, and then the next lap he's 6th, and then I'm thinking, okay, so here comes Nathan, and a few more laps later he gets past Dylan. I'm thinking, okay, he's probably going to catch me, and then obviously he does catch me, and I'm thinking, oh, here we go. He's probably going to pass me, but luckily I was able to just about keep him behind. I was just saying to him there, he and I set the same fastest lap on the same lap, which is always fun.
It's that magnet that's just attached to the gearbox back there. It always brings them along with you. But last question I had for you, looking forward to Long Beach. How are you feeling going into that one? Are you confident?
Well, I tell you, I'm 100% confident that I won't be doing the race as I do not own Long Beach.
No?
So, nope. It's basically one of 2 road circuits that I don't own.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate that we're going to miss you that next week. Then anybody you want to thank while we've still got you here?
I mean, I'm going to thank you guys for once again. I'm going to assume that you've put on a great show again. I'll watch it back and I'll let you know. But yeah, so you guys are not just again the community. They come together every time to bring the broadcast around. I know that I'm fairly sure that it's coming back next season if I remember reading that correctly. So yeah, that'll be good. And yeah, just thanks to everyone that takes part in it.
Well, make sure I'll check the email, see about that, and I made sure to put the TPS cover sheet on the broadcast over here. So Phil Reed finishing in 4th place today, unfortunately 1 step off of the podium.
Yeah, but I feel like he might be putting on something greater once he comes back. Thank you again, Phil Reed, and thank you again as well to both Yuka and Gianna for the interviews that they have accorded to us. Now, 11 rounds down. It's all down to 1, the big finale, and it's a bit, I don't know if you can call it a homecoming, but it feels right at home for the Lotus 79s because it's the streets of Long Beach next.
Gonna be interesting. Yeah, you're right. The cars fit that track very nicely, and honestly, it's probably one of the favorites of the drivers because of that. It's just hand in hand together.
Hand in hand and absolutely toe-to-toe racing as well to be expected next time around in the Sunday Grand Prix Series. That final round, the season finale for Season 3, will be happening on Sunday, September 3rd at the usual time of 12:30 p.m. Eastern. And on that note, big thanks to the team today. Joey, Zach, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our merchandise store, and our website, linked in the description below, and also showing on the screen. And thank you to June Lalonde as well for the music she provided. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so don't miss a moment right here on GSRC. The GSRC channel will be winding down for this weekend, but there will be one last race to send us off in the month of August. That last race being round 2 of the RTA Formula 3 Cup taking place in Interlagos. That will be happening on Tuesdays, August 29th at 4 p.m. Eastern. But in the meantime, from the Sunday Grand Prix Series, and from GSRC, I've been Thomas Mengozzi, and until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.